Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to learn something about the sound effects in libgdx. So basically whenever you are designing a game, one more thing which you need to include along with the images and animations is the sound. So in this tutorial we are going to go through some basics. We are not going to go in much depth, so we are basically going to go through how a sound is played in libgdx games. So basically the first thing which you need to do is that you need to have a sound file with you. So in my case I have a sound file which I have downloaded from the internet, and it is a sound file of alarm beep, and it is a WAV format file. So make sure that you download a file, and it is actually only 3 seconds long. So once you have this file with you, we simply copy this and we go inside our assets folder, and instead of just pasting it in the assets folder, we are going to make a new folder or new directory, and we are going to name it as sounds. So once we have this sounds directory, we are going to paste our sounds in here so as to properly organize everything inside our folder. So the next thing which we need to do is that we need to give it a name. So let's say we only name it as beep, so that it becomes easy for us to work with it. So as you could see, this is our sound file right here. Now the next thing which we do is that we go ahead and use this into our Java class. So the first thing which we need to do is that we need to create objects. So we need to create a sound objects, and actually there are two types of objects. There is a music object and there is a sound object. So music object is used whenever you want to add a background music which is much longer, but as in this case we are using a music which is only 3 seconds long, we are going to go with the sound. So we create a sound object right over here. So we type sound and we need to import sound. So we press alt enter and it is automatically going to import sound. And the next thing which we want to do is that we want to name this sound as something. So let's say we name it as game sound, and once this is done we are good to go. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to go into this create right here, and we need to add in the input processor. So we type gdx dot input dot set input processor, and this is basically used in order to handle the user input. And as you could see, we are getting an error, and that is because the entire gdx should be in capital letters, and this is showing us an error, and that is because we have not implemented the input processor. So we go ahead in front of our class name and we type implements input processor. So as you could see, when we add this implements, it is going to show us an error, and that is because we need to override some methods. So we go right ahead below render and we press Ctrl I and we select each of the methods present here. So as you could see, these are the methods which are basically used to process the user input, and in this case we are only going to use one method which is called as touchdown. So touchdown is basically used when we touch down or when we click the screen and we hold it for a while. So we copy this, or rather we cut this method right here, and we are going to paste it at the top so that we could work with it. And also make sure that you delete this overrides, or else it is going to give you an error. So once you have this touchdown method up here, the next thing which we need to do is that first we need to initialize the sound objects. So inside create, we initialize the object which we have just created above here, which is nothing but the game sound. So we type game sound equals gdx dot audio, then we type dot new sound, and inside it we actually specify the path in which we have the sound. So we type gdx dot files dot internal, and our sounds are actually present in the sounds directory. So we type sounds, and inside sounds we have a file which is called as beep.wav. So we type slash beep.wav. So once this is done, we have initialized the sound object. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we actually need to play the sound. So in order to play the sound, as we need to play the sound inside this touchdown, and that is because whenever the user touches down on the screen we need to play the sound. So we simply go here and then we type in game sound dot play. So this is basically going to play the sound whenever we touch down the screen. So once this is done, we are good to go, but the only thing which remains is that whenever we run this, it is going to consume our resources, and we should always dispose of our resources whenever we are done using them. So we go inside this dispose, and the only piece of code which we add is we dispose this sound object which we have just created. So in order to dispose it, we type in game sound dot dispose. So once everything is done, you could save the code and you could run your application on your device. And in this case, I'm not going to run this application on my device, and that is because it is eventually going to record the video, but I actually cannot record the audio on my device. So make sure that you run this application on your device and check if you have the sound. And you could face a problem wherein your volume or the device volume is very low. So for that, so if you have a low volume, then you have to make a little bit change in this code right here. So if you go to the game sound on create, you could go here and you could create a new variable which is called as sound ID. So we type sound ID, and you could equate this to game sound.play, and this basically is going to store the ID of the sound, and make sure that you give it a type of long. So we type long here, and we are going to use the same ID to increase the sound of this thing right here. So in order to do that, we type game sound dot set volume, and inside it we are going to pass in the sound ID, which is nothing but sound ID. So we type sound ID comma, and then if you want to increase the volume by 90%, so we type 0.9 F, and that is eventually going to increase the volume of your sound, and that is eventually going to increase the volume of the music right here. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys understood how you could implement sound effects in libgdx while developing games. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.